Hello, and welcome to Faith and Film. This is the podcast where we look at your favorite movies through the lens of the Christian faith.
This podcast will be exploring films old and new, exploring all genres and ratings. We'll be sharing our thoughts and giving our own perspectives on the quality of the film as well as the content.
We'll ask questions like, does the main character know Jesus? How does this movie align with biblical values?
At the end of each episode, we'll give you our PureFlix or Netflix rating, a simple way to decide if this movie is better suited for a faith-based audience or if it falls into a more worldly catalog.
So let's get to it. Hello, and welcome to the Faith Fellowship Recording Studio. This is going to be episode number 1 of our podcast where we tackle your favorite movies from a perspective of the Bible, essentially, Christian faith, how it impacts our viewing of it, and various things. Like, we'll kind of get into it. And for the first episode, we're actually going to be starting with The Natural, which is our pastor's favorite movie. I don't know why, but it is.
It is.
So there's that. I'm Nathan.
I'm Yesenia.
Please leave a message after the beep. I totally forgot what was supposed to be first on the docket.
It is first impressions. Okay. General thoughts. For me, I thought it was okay. I liked it. I liked watching it. I'm probably not gonna watch it again though. I liked it just fine enough for one-time viewing. That was my general impression of it. I give it like 2.5 stars out of 5. So if it's out of 10, then I guess 3, right? 3? No.
Multiply
No.
2.5 by 2.
4.5. No.
Is
Leave
Okay.
this in. I don't know how to do math. Whatever.
So, apparently we gave it the same rating because I'd give it a fine, right? Like 5 out of 10 or a 2.5 out of 5 for those of us that are mathematically challenged.
Yeah. Or
That would
just
be
C.
1
It's
out
a
of
C
2,
plus.
2 out of 4.
C.
What?
Like a C?
Like a
C?
C,
A C minus? I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah.
So it's completely average.
Yeah. That's...
As far as I'm concerned, there's plenty of bad to balance out the plenty of good in this movie. As far as major issues go, I didn't really have any. I've got plenty of nitpicks, but there are some interesting philosophical propositions that the film makes that I suppose we'll get into. But for now,
Oh, you did that.
rating system star. Do we think that the main character knows Jesus? Okay, so Roy Hobbs is the main character of this movie. Now, from a perspective of the Christian faith, personal life experience, whatever, do we think that this man is a Christian? Why or why not?
I think we know so little about him, but we see like he has like some things in common that overlap with the Christian faith, but I don't think I feel comfortable like straight out saying. Let me see. I took some notes. Let's see. Well, we know he's a good guy, kind of. He's trying his hardest to be a good guy, right? He's like a hard worker. He's got like, his goals and things. He respects his dad. His dad like raised him and he like has like a lot of respect for him and stuff. But honestly, I think if he had any like belief in something, it's baseball, straight up.
Yeah, honestly, given everything that we find out about Roy Hobbs throughout the movie, I would say that the category I'd be most likely, like, gun to my head if I had to guess, I'd say that he's a Sunday Christian, right? Where he lives his life doing possibly the best that he can. He has some values.
Yeah.
Right. He is a hard worker, right? He won't compromise his love of the game of baseball.
Yeah,
so on
and
and
he's
so
like
forth.
super well mannered and like with integrity too. He like was not willing to like take the money at the end. He was like, no,
Yeah.
like that's wrong.
Integrity where baseball is concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an important caveat. But yes, so the fact that he grew up on a farm, right, and he was raised with obviously integrity and these values in mind.
Yeah, what, like, he was willing to get married.
Yeah,
And
the
so he had,
fact
like,
that
this-
he throughout the movie he earns everything that he has.
Yeah.
Right. So given that, I'd be comfortable saying like, yeah, he's probably raised going to church. He might even call himself a Christian, but throughout the movie we really don't see it much.
Yeah, and
if
of
at
course
all.
there's no mention of God either in the movie at any time.
Yeah, but to be fair, if you're trying to make money in mainline cinema, mentioning God is kind of antithetical to that. So, pick your poison. But yeah, so those are our opinions on whether or not Roy Hobbs is a Christian. I guess we thought that might be an interesting little segment to tackle, just as part of the show. Okay. First time growing pains.
Did I not put in just
In-depth
talking about it as a movie?
discussion.
Should we talk about it as a movie first and then talk about it?
I mean,
Well, I guess it's
in-depth
the same thing.
discussion from biblical perspective, I'd say that
Should we
all
recap?
as a category.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Should we recap the movie? That way we're not like just jumping around for people that might not have.
Okay, so we're gonna do our best to go in chronological order here, but I have logical through lines for certain points that I want to make that are gonna go all over the movie, and on top of that, I'm very easily distracted when she says things. So, starting off, first shot of the movie is Roy Hobbs catching a ball in a cornfield in the middle of Nebraska or something.
Something like.
Very clear cinematic language here, right? Like, he is a prodigy. He's like 5 years old. He was born with a glove on his hand. His parents were like, "What is that?" And then the doctor said, "Oh, he's gonna be great at baseball, man. Don't worry."
Yeah. And then like the whole
Yeah.
scene of his dad raising him is like, that's pretty much all we get. Like, his dad's like,
Yeah.
let me show you, let me help you hone in these skills.
His dad teaches him some good life lessons in that particular segment. It's like the first 10 minutes of the movie or something like that. It's just
Yeah.
a montage of him growing up.
Yeah.
Not too much to say about that. His dad teaches him the value of hard work, of knowing what you want and going after it, different things like that are pretty, universal platitudes, things that people just accept as like, oh, these are good values for people to have. So,
Yeah.
don't really have any.
And then we meet the homegirl. The homegirl next door. Girl next door.
Yes.
I forget her name. Glenn Close's character. And right off the bat, like,
Iris,
her only thing is
I
like,
want to say.
oh, I love him. That's her little look. Her little 5-second look is like, okay, we know who she is. We know her purpose.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Robert Redford,
Yeah.
right? But
That was also me. When I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, I love him. And I'm gonna like this. So
yeah. So, yeah, here's where we get to the first interesting moment. I mean, given current day, it is absolutely like one of the most tame things that can be portrayed on screen, especially like, yeah. Okay, so basically he tells her, "Hey, I got drafted by the Cubs."
he tells her in the middle of the night, throwing rocks at her window.
Yes.
So
Okay, so I guess
he waits.
that is
he
an-
waits until the last possible second. He's like, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow.
yeah, which I guess, like, at the risk of the video getting age restricted, like, these are things that you don't want to be teaching your high schoolers. Like, hey, guess what? If you tell your girlfriend at the last possible second that you're going to leave to become a professional athlete in the middle of the night, and, she can climb out of her window and then you guys can go bang in the barn. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's just there. It's free. It's,
Yeah.
like...
And I just say, maybe when I come back, we can get married.
No, that okay, the implications of the scene are very much so. He's like, I want to get married to you.
Yeah, I
And she
believed him.
smiles and nods.
In the moment, I believed him. I was like,
Well,
he's
yeah,
gonna
but
do
that's
this, and then he's gonna come back for her.
that to me. That's exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Is what they say and the body language and what they're trying to tell you on screen is essentially that these two are now promised to each other. They're engaged. There was no ring, but there's the literal him saying, "I want to get married to you." She smiles and nods. They kiss.
Kids. Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's
we know. They know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Which is why what happens
immediately
over the next like 30 minutes of the movie is something that I find so incredibly like annoying and normal and contradictory to everything that they want you to think about Roy Hobbs.
Yeah,
right?
And that's why I stopped rooting for him. Entirely.
She rooted for him for all of 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Guys,
those first 3 minutes, he had me.
He was such a cute kid, and grew up, and then his dad died, and made himself a bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what happens next? I was really annoyed by this particular bit. Do you want to explain your thoughts on it so that I don't start rabbit trailing like crazy?
Which are you referring to, like the agent
so,
thing or the
so on the train.
The chick.
Well, just on the train in general, I guess I really like the initial part, right, where they're just shotgunning information at you in what
like,
seems like a pretty natural way, right, where they're like, oh, obviously this is going to give you a pretty clear time frame for when the movie is taking place. They literally show you a newspaper. Somebody reads a headline out of it, right? You're getting a bunch of information that's going to be important later. They hang out at a fair, and
he shows off, and like we were known like this tone, like, oh, he's gonna be like the next big thing, and he's gonna be the best.
My personal favorite shot of the movie is Robert Redford actually throwing a fastball. Like, the actor actually did that, and I don't know when the last time they actually had somebody do that on screen was, or a professional actor, I should say, because baseball players do it all the time. But Robert Redford threw a fastball. You got to see it in slow-mo. He is a lefty, apparently, and it was great. I really liked the shot. Directly after that, you get, what do we call her so that I actually get to put this on YouTube?
I'm calling her the groupie. Because that's what I think she is. The first groupie.
The first
in
groupie.
His life.
Okay.
She just is like, ooh.
Floozy number 1.
Yeah.
Shall we say. Yeah.
Immediately. First girl throws attention at him. He's like,
It annoys the crap out of me. It really does. Because, believe it or not, even men who are starved for attention are not as stupid as Roy is over the next, 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Because you get this just oh my gosh, Roy, you're the best.
Yeah.
I love you so much. I'm just gonna completely just, rub your soul out through your freaking arm.
Yeah.
To the point where when I call you at your hotel, you literally ask the question, how did you know I was staying here? And all I have to do is say, oh, Roy, I'm in room 207. You should totally come down. And then he's like, okay. Runs straight to the room, knocks on the door. When she doesn't answer, right? Keeping in mind that, probably less than a day ago, definitely less than a week ago, he slept with his high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Got essentially engaged to her.
Yeah.
Turns around, gets on a train,
the
last woman to make contact with him.
Literally, she just
is now his owner, and she goes come in, and immediately I'm thinking dude, this how many notches do you want on your bedpost before you are even actually a professional baseball player?
Yeah.
Right?
He didn't even, of course, make it down to, meet the team. Nothing, trying nothing out, nothing, just...
But he opens the door, he walks in, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I guess maybe, it's mid-40s, at this point. Maybe he's just so innocent that he has no idea what it means when a girl goes, "Come in." Like, you're adults. She has her own hotel room, and she's not answering the door and telling you to come in. What is the implication supposed to be here? Okay, then, right? Complete 180, where his stupidity is now proven. Before it was arguably innocence, now I think it's just stupidity.
Yeah.
She's looking out a window dressed for a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "You promise you're going to be the best there ever was at this game?" That was right after somebody read the story to him. The best football player and the best Olympic athlete in the world were just killed. And yeah, I mean, at this point, we all know what's going to happen. He's going to get shot in the head, movie over, roll credits. Poor Robert Redford. They said the gun wasn't loaded, but,
Oh no. No. Oh my gosh.
But no, so...
I was shocked. I was like, oh, that's where this is going?
You were shocked.
I was shocked. Not like up until she got shot. I was shocked when I walked in and heard the
She didn't get shot, by the way.
No, when she shot him.
Yeah.
When she shot him, yeah. I was like, whoa. I know that's the kind of movie this is, okay.
If you say so. I don't know. I saw it coming a mile away. She was dressed for a funeral. She was acting all weird. She wanted to confirm that he thought that he was going to be the best that there ever was. And there was nothing that was going to keep him from that. They literally show you the article and they read the headline.
I was shocked when he opened the door. I wasn't shocked until I saw the gun. And I wasn't thinking and then the guns. Oh what? No, I was opening the door and she was like, "What's going on?" Because I really thought she was just trying to get it on.
So I guess we probably already braked. Yes, we braked this down. We broke this down pretty thoroughly, I'd say, but I guess just to kind of recap the encapsulated everything that's happening here. We've got, essentially a complete lack of a moral center from him where his romantic relationships are concerned.
Yeah.
And I find that very troubling, along with the complete lack of, intuition, right? Because if we assume completely that you're just totally innocent and you're like, oh no, she's probably stuck in the washing machine or something. I don't know why you would walk into a hotel room and just think that it's perfectly fine. But, okay, so if we assume that he's just completely innocent and he walks in, he finds her staring out a window dressed for a funeral.
He doesn't know how to navigate. He's just a boy. You think I thought at first, he's just, he's just a boy. He's just figuring it out. Anyways, he gets shot.
Yeah, and then she jumps out the window and commits suicide.
Yeah.
So it gets very dark very quickly there. But they don't let you dwell on it basically at all.
Yeah, immediately it's 17 years later. I'm like, oh, okay.
This is all the preamble.
Yeah.
17 years later, what do we expect from this? Because I did not expect at all that we would be getting what we ended up getting.
No, 17 years later. I don't know. I thought he'd be washed up somewhere immediately when I saw that. 17 years later, crazy.
I mean, he is washed up somewhere.
I mean, I didn't think he'd still be trying.
He's not still trying. He's trying again.
Yeah, that's the thing I got confused with too, because it's 17 years. I know he explained it to homegirl when they were talking, but it was all muffled down. I know he was okay, I woke up. They told me I couldn't play again. But then what was the rest of the time? Here's
the thing that is a very lazy writing shortcut, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, because of payoffs that we want later in the movie, i.e. he doesn't know he has a kid. Just spoilers if you didn't know. He doesn't know he has a kid, and he does the right thing, and he's with her, and they get back together, and then they raise a family, and they live happily ever after, right?
Yeah.
Because of you want those payoffs, you have him be the biggest jerk and dumbest person in existence, essentially, right? man gets shot, life gets saved, even if we assume that he was in a coma for those 17
Right,
years.
which he's-
Like, he doesn't wake up and immediately
No.
go, Mom, I'm alive. Iris, I'm alive. What? We have a kid? You know, like,
Yeah, no.
you know, he doesn't
just
check in
fully ghosts
with
her for 17
anybody.
years.
He's just completely off the map for 17 years.
We
And
don't
the
know.
first thing we see from him is that he goes home to get his bat.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go home to actually check on the farm. He doesn't go home to see what's up with his neighbors, you know, the one that apparently has been raising his kid.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't essentially do anything. He's just
He's
like,
like,
I'm
oh.
alone in the world,
Yeah.
except for me and my Wonder Boy bat that I
Yeah.
made when Dad died. Which, you know, I like that, right?
I like the bat. I
Like,
his
the
little-
tree that his dad died under,
Mhm.
he turns it into a bat when he gets struck by lightning because he's like, oh, I don't want to leave, or I'd imagine he's like, oh, I don't want to leave this stump here. This is what I had to remember Dad by, but the tree is donezo.
Mhm.
So I'm going to turn it into something. He loves baseball, he made it a bat, keeps his dad with him everywhere he goes. Like, it's very symbolic. I like it. I hate that that's the only thing that he cares about. Essentially, at this point, like, that's what they tell you, right? Because he goes through, he's walking down memory lane, he gets flashbacks from everything.
Yeah, the only thing that we know at this point that's like tried and true about him is he loves baseball. That's like pretty
Yeah.
much it. That's all, like, because everything else we're told, like, oh, he switches up on the girl. That's it. He's just like
I guess
one track mind of like,
natural
I'm gonna
talent,
go prom.
I guess, for baseball as well has been conveyed, but it's all baseball.
It's all baseball.
For
That's all
him.
we know about him. That's
But yeah,
consistent
so-
throughout the whole movie.
Moving on from there, we get, like, we already had my favorite shot. Now we've got my favorite scene in the entire movie is you see the New York Knights at, are they playing or are they at practice? I
They're
forget.
practicing.
They're-
It's like, but whose pops was he? Like the.
Yeah, Pops is I believe the GM who
Yeah.
also used to hold a majority stake in the team.
Yeah.
And Red, who is their head scout, who is probably my favorite character in the movie. Believe it or not, but they are bantering like two old coots, and it is
Yeah. They're okay.
it is great.
They're tired.
You know, it's like, Red, let me tell you something, Red. Yeah, Pop. What is it, Pop? Yeah, Pop. Red, let me tell you. I always told my mama. I told my mama I should have been a farmer. I told her. Yep, I told her I should have been a farmer. Yep, yes, sirree. Red, you know I told my mama I should have been a farmer. Yeah, and they have the gift of gab, and it is amazing to watch on screen. It just comes across so natural.
Yeah, it feels
and
so
just-
real. Like, these
yeah.
are two people that you've overheard talking before. This is their conversations people
Yep.
have had.
And it's great. Like, I'd rate the scene a 10 out of 10. And
Yeah.
Robert Redford essentially just walks into this, like, hell of his own making where the team that he's supposed to be join is sucking in practice. Like, they're doing terribly in practice. And he's walking up to the GM and the head scout who are just, like, you know, arguing, like, bickering with each other like an old married couple, essentially. And he's just like, what did I walk into? Hi, I'm your new, left fielder.
Yeah.
And they're like, get out of here. What are you, like, 50? And then he's like, yeah, but actually in the movie I'm playing somebody who's 30.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so great scene.
Yeah. And then it
Anything.
takes them, like, a long time to kind of, like, warm up to him and, like, actually give him a chance to prove himself. But does he, like, have any genuine connection to Pops, do you think? Because they try to make it seem like he does.
So here
And I
is
don't
where
feel
I think the symbology all just kind of clicks together in this particular relationship. It's a microcosm for what the movie is trying to tell you, which is baseball, much like childhood, needs to be kept as pure as possible. And Pops is in it for the love of the game.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Robert Redford, Roy Hobbs, is in it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And thus, naturally, their objectives align.
Mm-hmm.
right? To the point where as soon as they give Roy a chance, they see what he can do. They're like, "Wow, he's actually really good. Let's start playing him. Let's start having him out. Let's start fielding him."
And
like,
then he starts like overshadowing like their
their current
star player, but they suck.
He's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, explain that.
I mean, well, the way that I explain it is that it's somebody with a decent amount of talent who is the biggest fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Right.
He
and
sure acts like he's
portrayed.
like the best.
Because like you're the best player on the worst team in baseball. Congratulations.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But he plays the part, I'd say, pretty convincingly of the big fish small pond, because when the essentially whale that is Robert Redford, Roy Hobbs, shows up, instantly he's just feeling threatened as soon as he sees what this guy can do, and he's like, okay, you're literally trying to replace me in every facet of my current life, where my girlfriend is looking at you and my boss is literally giving you my field position and my batting position, and like it's again pretty clear cinematographical movie language. Pretty clear movie language that's exactly what's happening. The bad guy is being replaced by the good guy, in quotation marks, which values wise I think is good, because it shows you like, oh, the person who is doing the best that he possibly can at the thing that he loves, trying to drive it forward, doing what's best for the team, not what's best for him. Like, as far as baseball is concerned, seriously positive and good messaging throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, I'd say that it is incredibly solid and super based. Because, I mean, the guy that's lazy and loudmouthed and just a braggart and not all that great, of course he gets replaced, and, the movie plays him down, even to the point of giving him one of the most comical deaths that I've ever seen. I laughed out loud.
We gotta get rid of him. Just do it.
I thought it was an Abbott and Costello bit when he ran into the fence and then it broke and he fell through it.
You see his legs just dangling.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, what a genius, right? Just runs full on into the back fence.
Because he's trying to upcho and he's all...
Yeah, and he just forgets that there's a wall there that he's gonna hit. And you're like, aha, what a genius. And then, hard cut to the newspaper article where they're like, tragically Bump dies. And you're like, I'm sorry, what?
That's one way to get rid of that character.
Homie ran into a wall and died? What?
It's the most randomest thing.
I was laughing out loud pretty hard at this point in the movie. I was not expecting to see something that legitimately just took me by surprise.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck? He's dead now? He's just dead? Okay.
I'm going, okay, so that's why 3-year-olds die all the time, right?
Yeah.
When they're looking at dad, oh no, dad's gonna get me, and then, right into the sliding glass door or whatever.
Yeah.
I just, okay.
Yeah, and then,
but sure, he's dead now.
He's dead now.
And we're happy, because he was a bad guy.
And then the press is just quickly moved on from that. They're like, who's this new guy?
Yeah.
Let's talk about him some more.
Who's this new guy, Roy Hobbs?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, in recent years, society has forgotten that positivity is always going to be more profitable than negativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now,
That's not.
politically speaking, people are trying to keep everybody oppressed and scared and indoors and separated from each other, right? But here, it's pretty clear media tactic where they're like, oh no, he's sad, let's pay our due respects. And then the next baseball game, immediately, they're like, wow, their new player, they don't even tout him as the replacement for Bump. It's literally just the new left fielder is amazing, right?
Mm-hmm. But he starts getting more noticed, kind of blowing up a little bit, and then little girl next door, now Glenn Close, is like, oh.
She is acting exactly how I would expect a woman to act in a situation where her baby daddy is coming back and she would like to start something permanent with him, but
Yeah.
she doesn't want to straight out scare him off, get rejected, immediately jump into romance, whatever. So she's
I think she's
just hanging around just enough to make
Yeah.
sure that he's interested, that he's going to stick around, that he's going to, blah, 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 right?
I see it more as like her trying to work through what she actually wants from him, like as the movie goes on. Because at first, I think when she finds out like he's like alive and doing stuff, she's kind of like more like surprised, and then she's like keeping tabs on him. I don't know. I think she does get scared like later on once they reconnect, and she finds that she still like has that attraction towards him, that connection towards him is still there, and she doesn't know like should she like she knows she wants him in her son's life. We find out later on, but like
Yeah, that
because like she invites him over, and then she's like, "You better go," and like, "Oh, let's meet." "Oh, I shouldn't have came." You know, like she's more. I wish we could have gotten a scene of her like not being perfect. You know what I mean? Like her whole role
Yeah.
is like she's just sitting there, waiting, raising his kid. For all we know, taking care of his farm because we don't know if he has his mom. We don't see his mom. I don't remember seeing his
Yeah.
mom ever. So it's like she's just holding down the fort, waiting, and then he's back, and then she's there,
Which
and she's all.
I would
just like stand by
I
your
would
man.
tend to agree. Like,
Yeah.
I would like for Roy to be held responsible for the mistakes that he's made.
Yeah.
Now, the argument here being, the man got shot. How much more responsible does he need to be held? Well,
He got shot, yeah. And then,
getting
like,
shot
17 years
is
later.
you being held responsible for the fact that you were dumb enough to,
Yeah.
set off that chain reaction.
And
Okay,
had he
so
been
that's
loyal
an entire
to her,
other issue.
had he been loyal to his engagement, none of this would have happened. He would have, well, it wouldn't have happened in that moment. And he for sure, like, would have at least been able to
Yeah.
meet the people, possibly played on the team.
Yeah, and then, like we find out later, if he had actually been on the Cubs, then they would have almost instantly reconnected. Because she says
Mhm.
that she went to Chicago after him, she looked for him.
She looked for him. She
she
was
went to
checking
games.
obituaries.
Yeah,
She-
like,
she
she goes,
was going through
oh,
it."
I was, blah, blah, so, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Mhm.
But, bottom line, they reconnect, and she, I could say, like, yeah, she's trying to figure out exactly what she wants from him, but I do honestly think that a lot of it is just kind of fear-driven.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to meet your son because then you're going to know, or I don't want you to know that I have a son because then you might get scared and, like, run off or whatever.
Yeah,
where
which
it's
is
like,
reasonable because she
we're
was
going
ghosted
to-
for 17 years.
I
For
like. I
nothing.
didn't say it was unreasonable.
Yeah,
but
no, yeah.
It,
It is, yeah.
Sitting here, being our armchair critics that we are, it's really easy for us to say like, I would have been super pissed at him or whatever. So giving her the benefit of the doubt, I think that she was operating with a reasonable fear
Yeah.
that all of these things would happen, given
Yeah.
what we know about him.
Yeah, and I wish she would have been able to like just showcase that more because I felt like her whole purpose was just to be
I mean,
that, and like even like everything she did was for him,
like,
standing up so he could play better. I gotta tell him he has a son so he could play better. Like,
I think that would make it a better movie,
mhm.
but in romantic comedies, you don't really get super development for a guy past he is there to chase you, right? Like, so
Oh, this
in a
is-
baseball movie, we can make the concession that, like, she is the Mary Jane for Spider-Man, right? She is the prize, that is her job,
right.
like,
That's her.
okay,
Yeah.
that is her role. I think it would be better if she actually had more development like you're talking about, but, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bit of a nitpick here.
Yeah.
So,
she's-
I mean, a case could be made, but as it stands, the thing that, like, actually seriously annoys me about this is that the movie language of all of this is they reconnect, and you're expecting there to be this actual, like, relationship development, like, drama, oh my gosh, where were you for 17 years, what's going on, blah, blah, blah,
No,
blah.
she just takes it. They just accept it.
Yes,
Like, oh,
she completely accepts it. They're just like friends again now, and Roy is painted as being this amazing guy who's now leading his team to victory throughout this whole montage and sequence, right? And she's happy
oh,
for
and
him.
is now
and-
shacked up with the homeboy who died.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
here is floozy number 2.
Yeah, floozy number 2.
Okay.
He did not
so
learn. 17 years later, he did not learn.
We're gonna
that the
go
Force
back to 30 minutes into the movie or something. All right. Hot blonde whose name I can't remember, but she's the attractive blonde. Like that's her part to play here.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Do you trust her right away?
Do I trust
You're
her?
watching it, do you think like, oh...
I actually kind of hate her.
Yeah.
Because I hate women like that. The first scene that we get of her is she walks into the elevator, she sees him, she obviously takes notice of this, handsome athletic guy, right? She turns around, stands right in front of the elevator switchboard, and intentionally doesn't push a button. Just stares at it, right? To which you get this very, almost innocent on his part, Roy Hobbs, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is retarded again. But that aside, you get this innocent part played by Roy Hobbs, where he leans past her and he's like, "You didn't push a button," right? And he just pushes the button, but obviously instead of the politically correct and acceptable thing that I'm doing here, he faces her and leans in very close. They're breathing the same air.
Yeah, so establishes
and
they're
he
into
pushes
each other.
the thing, and you can cut the tension with a freaking knife. It is insane in that elevator. He pushes it, and then he just kind of slowly steps back, and you're like, I wonder what they're trying to tell me here. Immediately after they get out of the elevator, Pop is there, and he's like, "Oh, hey, darling. Oh, this is my niece. Did you meet our new player, Roy?" They're like, "Hi, how are you?" They get introduced to each other, and then...
Yeah, and he's not stupid either. He knows what's
and he goes, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm here to meet my boyfriend that I'm in a serious relationship with, Bump, who is your star player on the team." And there's a little bit of a thing that happens there, but literally immediately I go from oh, okay, so they're into each other, so they're replacing the baby mama again, whatever, yeah. Right? But it's been 17 years, I guess. To her literally just being like, "Oh, okay, I need to flaunt myself in front of this man in a very tight, enclosed space," and then just be like, "Oh, sorry, the goods aren't for sale."
And then once that her boyfriend dies, she's not very... Yeah. She's not very grief-stricken. She moves on pretty quickly.
Yep. She dresses exactly like the woman that shot him.
And I'm like, dude, you didn't learn 17 years, you didn't learn the first tale that comes your way. You're just like...
That was one time. One time we see her in her, grieving mourning outfit, and then they move on from that, and she just immediately, we find out later, gets sicked on Roy, because she is... I mean, this language is in the Bible, so, Pastor... I'm looking at you. She is quite literally a harlot. She is being paid by a very rich man to ruin the star player on the New York Knights at any given time. So now we know why Bump was the way he was. It was because of her. Yeah. Right?
And he doesn't think at all, why is this chick
and
just
now
throwing herself at me?
She is going to do the same thing to Roy. So their team starts... losing because at every conceivable opportunity, her job, she's being paid, she's making lots of money, sleeping with him, getting him drunk, keeping him up late, just the party trifecta, if you will, at every opportunity that she gets, so that his athletic ability and his ability to lead the team and his mental game, all of these just nosedive.
Yeah, we get a little montage of that too.
Yes.
Slowly, more and more.
Which, from a Christian perspective, again, could be good for educational purposes because there's nothing super explicit.
Everything's implied, but
it's all implied, but it's heavily implied. It is pretty heavy with the implications here that they are sleeping together regularly. They're even possibly living together, maybe. I think she still has her own place, but they're sleeping together most nights.
Yeah.
they are partying a lot. Like, they're constantly drinking, going out doing expensive things, staying up way too late.
Right.
Roy starts lagging it, and this is, like, literally it bugs me because he should have the common sense to know exactly what's going on and how to beat it given his history.
Literally, yeah. Like,
literally given his history, yeah. But
and at that time, you give him like the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, he's just a young kid, you know, he doesn't know no better. But now it's like, you are a grown man who has
had
literally
16
fallen
years
for
to
this
figure this
same
out, but
exact thing, like,
yeah.
almost 20 years ago, and now you're like,
So
okay.
now instead of a bullet, it's a slow death, and
Mhm.
it's killing. This is supposed to be the most tragic part of the movie. What the movie wants you to think is, it is killing the team and the purity of the game of baseball. It's been tainted by this woman who's been hired by the person who's trying to take over the team to get him to be as bad as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that, I guess, ladies pay attention. If you want a guy to suck at something, then it's very easy for you to distract him.
A lot of times you don't even have to try. They just are distracted.
Yes.
Oh,
Can confirm.
and then when do they, when does the head guy call him into his office and, like, try to move him? Does he try to move to another team or something like that?
I mean, that depends on which time you're talking about, because pretty early on he gets called into
Yeah.
the judge's office the first time, and they're like, oh, Roy, so you're a new star player. Now they bump it, I think it's like right after bump.
It's when he's still doing really well, yeah.
Yeah, when he's still doing really well, and he goes like, oh, why are you playing for the last place team on such a crappy salary? Like, what do you want? And he's essentially trying to pin down Roy's motivations, and I thought it was a really intelligently written scene, honestly, where everything he does is so laser focused that even Roy's innocence is like, something's up here. Like, something's going on with
Yeah,
this guy.
he can't comprehend
Right.
someone just, like,
Yeah,
wanting to play
who's-
baseball.
Yeah, because literally he's like, so what do you want? What's your angle here, kid? Blah, blah, you know, and he keeps walking through all of these different questions that are essentially like, no, I don't care how much money I make.
Yeah.
I just love playing baseball as long as I'm making a little wage. Like, you know, everything is great here. I love the game. Go Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that ends essentially with them. I think that's how the relationship starts.
Yeah.
Right, because right after Bump dies, they call him into the office, and they figure out, oh, well, we're gonna have to sabotage this guy because we can't, like,
'Cause I
he,
think they
he
offered
doesn't
him-
want more money,
Yeah, they
he
want-
doesn't want to play on a better team.
Yeah.
Like,
And that was really interesting to me, too. And it did show up, like, his morals, but he was like, no, I would never do that to Pops, and da-da-da-da. I'm like, where? I'm like, okay, I guess. But I was like, now that
Yeah.
talking about it, I guess it does
But-
make sense, because he's the one that let him try, because he was on other teams before that for, like, weeks at a time. So this is, like, the first guy that actually allowed him to play and let him...
that's not what they tell us, though, in the movie, I don't think. Because he said he was on, like, the okay, for
He
the
was
sake
on
of a
some
joke,
other-
I'm gonna say this. If it's too offensive, we can cut it, and there will be a hard cut here, and then you'll know that I've actually got a really edgy sense of humor. But so he played for the Hebrew Nationals. You don't get that at all. Hebrew National is a brand of hot dog, for those of us at home that don't know. And I thought the name of the team was like the Hebrews or something like that. But he said he played for them for like a month
Yeah.
in the minors, and then immediately got bumped up to the majors when the Knights scout picked him out.
Oh, okay. I was
And
playing
that
somewhere
was
for
it.
like 2
And
weeks.
he-
Oh, okay.
He said, he did say that he had, you know, with odd jobs here and there for like 16 years, I guess we're supposed to presume that that's what he was doing. He
Yeah.
was just
So then it
basically a hobo wandering around
Yeah.
picking up work.
So his loyalty to Pops really doesn't make sense to me. Why he
Um,
wouldn't want to move up teams?
Here's where the movie language comes in, I think, and it all clicks together. Red, takes Roy out to lunch pretty early on in the movie and tells him that Pops, the team's general manager, is in it for the love of the game. He really just loves baseball, and winning is great, but he just wants to play, and since he's too old and fat to play, now he's going to manage the team. Unfortunately, due to financial troubles, he had to sell a bunch of his shares to the judge, who is now the evil money man. And because of that, now it's in the contract that control of the team completely shifts over to the judge if the Knights don't win the pennant.
Yeah.
So, because of that, symbolically speaking, a lot of this movie is about the purity of baseball and trying to keep it clean and nice and fun and away from all those evil money grubbing people and the girls that want to sleep with you and whatever else that is bad that comes in to get its grimy little fingers all over baseball, which then, in the movie's opinion, automatically aligns these two characters who are essentially defined by their love for the purity of the game.
Yeah, yeah. I guess just like for me, just like watching it, they really, aside from in the games where he's like having him play, they really don't interact that much, him and Pops. So in that moment where he's like, I wouldn't do that to Pops, it didn't make sense to me. But like, yeah, I guess it does now if like they both just love baseball and like want to keep it pure. But that really, and while I was watching it, it was just like, why do you feel you owe him anything?
I mean,
like, you just met this man.
Things are always going to be better when they make sense symbolically as well as literally, right? Like, if the figurative and the literal align, that's when you get great movies. Here, we have something that is kind of confusing because we haven't seen these characters interact really at all outside of, no, you don't get to play, no, you don't get to play, no, you don't get to play, no, okay, fine, you can play, wow, you're really good, we like you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's essentially their relationship.
Right.
So here, he stands on his morals,
Yeah.
essentially to protect the purity of the game, but then he says the line that you found very confusing, I'd never do that to Pop. But he's good, right? He won't bend his morals for money in this particular case, which is something that we like. That is a positive message.
Things we know about him. It's the second thing we know about him. Yeah.
Yes, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Very positive message, I'd say, especially for young men in this particular case, just because a lot of times traditional gender roles, men are supposed to provide for the family. If you're going to make yourself miserable just to make more money, that is not going to be a good idea. Generally, everybody's going to tell you that, but it's nice to actually see it portrayed in fiction.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
biblical too, you know? Don't work to be wealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the sake of being wealthy.
Fulfill your needs. And essentially, that's what money is for. The love of money is the root of all evil, and that's another kind of underlying theme of the movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
moving forward, they go on a lost streak, and the thing that pulls him out of it is Iris the Pure.
Oh, yes.
So,
Yes, there she goes.
baby mama,
Showing
as all of this is happening, Roy is, again, shown to be basically a two-timer, I'd say, where it, like... Okay, there's cheating in the sense of, like, literally just having sex with somebody that you're not married
Yeah.
to,
Mhm.
right? And then there's cheating in the sense that instead of being in a relationship where you're relying the most on somebody, which is what theoretically marriage is supposed to be, you are physically in a relationship with one person and
Yeah.
mentally in a relationship with
Yes,
another person, which
he emotionally
is
cheats.
duplicitous at the least.
Yeah. But yeah, there she was. There she
So,
was standing in her
he's-
white dress.
Yeah. So he's with, romantically, floozy number 2 at this point still.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, baby mama, Iris, is helping him sort through all of his 17 years of baggage, presumably to prepare him for being to make sure that he can actually be a father,
Yeah, she talks
to
about like how
her
his
son.
dad and his relationship with his dad and how important that was for him, and he agrees like, oh yeah, like a boy needs his father.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is when they go back to her apartment and she's talking and she like mentions that she has a son, a 17-year-old son who is running the farm.
I don't think that she...
She says he's old enough now. She doesn't say exactly how old he is, but she's like, oh yeah, like
okay.
he's running my farm now. He's old. Nothing clicks in his head. Like, okay, she has an adult son.
Which, I guess, at this
we
point...
hooked up 17 years ago.
At this point, Roy has a history of being stupid.
Yeah.
So this is entirely believable.
He just thinks she just met someone else immediately after or something, and it's like, oh.
I mean, it could be, or he could just not be doing the math. I mean, either way, I'd say that it's dumb of him to not ask, like, oh, who is the father outright? Because if you want to be as neutral as possible, not like, oh my gosh, you didn't tell me I have a kid or whatever, if you just say, oh, who's the father, right? And then if she keeps doing this, like, very vague, again, I think it's kind of out of fear thing, where she's like, oh yeah, he looks just like his father. His father lives in New York. You happen to live in New York, by the way. Like,
yeah,
you know,
she did say, didn't she
she's
say
just
that
dropping
his dad
all of
lives in
these
New York?
freaking hints and waiting for him
He
to put it
needs his
together,
father,
but,
and he's just
you know,
like, oh,
I mean,
where's your
freaking
husband at? Like,
Special Rob over here is,
yeah, I wanted to strangle him, and I was like, you're so dumb.
But
that was me the whole movie with him. You're so dumb.
Yeah, so here we find ourselves in another situation that I essentially morally object to. As soon as you reconnect with the girl that you were essentially engaged to, number one, I'd say apologize for being a coward and cutting her out of your life and all of those other things.
Yeah.
Number two, find out how she's doing, and if she is a single mother, then number three, if you are actually reconnecting with her and you think that you could make a good match, you break up with your current floozy.
Yeah.
So that you can then say, hey, I'd like to give it the old college try, even if it's not my, blah, 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 right?
Literally, because you could tell they both are still in love with each other. The way they look at each other, the way they interact with each other, there's a longing, there's a familiarity. They kind of jump right back into it. Like, there's no awkwardness, even though there should be a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
But again, this is movie language
right.
of them just telling us, like, oh, we're here now.
Yeah, and
right.
they're soulmates.
Yeah. There are some things that you can excuse, and I'll say, like, oh yeah, that would have made a better movie, but this is what we got. This is one of those things that I'm like...
I've been like...
No.
Where's the child support? Where's the back pay child support? But, no.
Okay.
We're just...
Neither of those things are what's on my mind. What is on my mind is... Essentially, Roy should be tearing himself apart at this point.
Yeah, I don't
for
see him
abandoning
having
her.
no
Like, he is
remorse at all for
he's not sorry. He doesn't take responsibility
No.
at any point in this movie, and that is, like, literally... You watch this movie with your kids, you watch this movie alone, like, have this conversation with somebody where you can acknowledge, like, okay, I enjoyed this movie, but, like, Roy is a total two-timer, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not an amazing guy. He just kind of is a normal guy, which is not a good thing.
And he's not, like, selfish in, like, this kind of typical sense. Like, he's not greedy with his money or whatever.
Yeah.
He cares about Pops because he seems like a good guy or whatever. You see him, like, he's friendly with his teammates, but he has no concern for, like, Iris, and also, like, towards the end, he even says, like, well, what do you want all this? He wants his name to be a household name. He wants honor. He wants to be one of the greats.
Say fame.
Yeah, fame. So it's
and
like that's his goal
the
in life.
immortality that comes with that. He wants people to always know that the best there ever was Roy Hobbs.
And that's what his whole life in his head was supposed to be about. So it's like all this time, that's what his goal was. That's what the means was.
Yeah, which on multiple occasions, it actually made me angry when he said, what else is there?
Yeah, what
right? When people go, "What do you want?" and he says that,
Mhm.
right? He says, "I want everyone to always know that the best there ever was Roy Hobbs. I want them to know my name."
Yeah.
Right? And then when they go, "Okay, what else?" and he goes, "What else is there?" And when he says that to the woman that's raising his son,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Whose life he
it
literally
legitimately
wasted.
made me want to kill Roy. Like at
Yeah.
this point, he's just he's certifiably like I don't know he's got a permanent short bus pass.
So it's
Let's
like,
put it
what?
that way.
What? And then it's like and they end up together, right? In the ending and all that, it kind of left me feel a little empty because it's like, well, who is he now? Like
Okay,
now that he
so
had the fame and everything, and like,
if we skip
what's he doing now?
back from that a
Right,
little bit,
yeah.
the very ending of the movie. So what happens is he does end up completely reconnecting with them, with her while he's with Floozy number 2.
Yeah.
Floozy number 2 is desperately trying to sink her claws
But
into
he does
him.
to her what he did to Homegirl. He's slowly icing her out. He's just like, yeah, okay. Like she tries being all flirty on the phone,
Okay.
and he's just
He
like,
didn't slowly isolate out anybody in this movie except for Floozy number 2. I would like
yeah,
that to be
okay,
on
yeah,
the
that's true. Yeah, it was just pretty
So
solid ice.
the
was just
short
like-
version,
Yeah.
like you're saying.
Yeah, like she's like flirting with him on the phone, trying to, cause like that's when we find out. We always knew she was a little corrupt, but then that's when we actually find out she's corrupt, cause she's in like the room and it's dark and they're smoking and they're scheming and they're plotting, and she's like, no, I can still control him. Whatever. Calls him up, tries to be all like, hot and bothered, and he's just like, yeah, okay, like, bye, like he does not care anymore. And then she knows she lost her grip.
Like
on him.
it's super clear. Like it's idiotically clear, and they bash you over the head with it repeatedly that she's trying to desperately hold on to him, and he is backing away as nicely as he can, I guess, even though it would be far kinder for him to just say, "You and I are done."
Right.
Okay, there's no hope, there's no chance. Like, just save your energy, go chase somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but because he's trying to be, his version of as nice as possible in this scenario, she poisons him.
Mm-hmm.
She was only intending to make him so sick that he couldn't play in the pennant game and they would lose, and the person that's paying her would, make all this money and own the team and, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
But because he got shot and the bullet is still in his stomach,
still in his stomach.
it's been deteriorating the lining of his stomach, so the like nausea-inducing agent, I guess, gave him pains that made him like double over. They had to take him to the nearest hospital, which hilariously is a maternity ward.
Yeah.
That was another thing that kind of made me laugh. Where he
Yeah,
wakes
those were
up and
fun
he's looking
moments.
around, and he's like, "Why are all these pregnant women here?"
Yeah. It is. Those were some fun moments.
Yeah, but so yeah, they take him to the hospital. They pump his stomach. They find the bullet, and essentially it gives her an out because everybody assumes like, oh, this finally just got to you because the bullet's been in your stomach this entire time. But it also triggers, for possibly the first time in the movie, a genuine regret. in
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Where this was the first time that I got a scene between these two that I liked, where she shows up and she's like, "Roy, just stop. This is going to kill you. I don't want you to die. We can be happy. We can take their money. They will literally pay you to not play the game. Okay? We'll be set for life. We can take the money. We can quit playing baseball, and we can live happily ever after." And in this moment, if she's lying, I believed her.
I believed her
Like,
too.
she was so genuine in, like, okay, obviously you're a really good looking guy. I enjoy being with you. Aside from the fact that I've been trying to ruin your life, but we can actually be happy. And that is
Yeah.
the first time that she uses language like that, talks about a future with him,
Yeah.
things like that.
Because even though she is like being used and stuff, and she's like playing her role, like throughout the movie, we do kind of see like her. Oh, he's so different, like she does kind of. They do get along, and it's like becomes kind of a real to her to a degree, not
Yeah,
fully, but
I
in this
mean,
moment she's like, okay, no, I do not want him to
for-
die.
every scene before this, I could see her essentially playing the part of the dutiful girlfriend, right? And I thought that was portrayed very well. Either it was a really bad person acting like somebody's girlfriend, or it was a really good actress acting like she's acting like somebody's girlfriend, right? But here, you finally get, again, something I felt was super genuine. She wanted them to be together for the rest of their lives, happy and just set with all of this massive payout that they were going to get. He says no. And this is something that morally I don't really know how to feel about this whole situation, because there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. It's super complex.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking forward to digging through this whole mess at the moment. Because I guess to lay out all of the pieces here, Roy is offered a substantial sum of money to not play, thus making it, bad if he were to take the bribe.
Yeah, and I would have supported him just like saying no if the doctor didn't also tell him, hey, you play one more game of baseball, you're gonna die.
So, directly after that, you're saying, hey, if you keep putting this kind of torque on your torso, which is kind of the name of the game, right? When you swing a bat, it's all core.
But he don't care. He's just like, can I play on Monday? Can I play on Monday? And it's like...
He's like, you'll drop dead. I'm going to say no. So, blood. But he's like, but can I play? And he goes, it will kill you. There's no uncertain terms here. He says, you might get... I forget what he says, but it's literally if you play a full game of baseball, you're probably going to die.
Yeah.
If you play 2, I'll be surprised if you can walk off the field. It's serious. So he gets offered the money, so it would be bad. The doctor then tells him, you will die if you do this, which means that, again, he shouldn't, in my humble opinion. There's no reason that your love of baseball, we see Pop, right? There's no reason that your love of baseball should dictate that you absolutely have to play Die Hard, literally.
Yeah,
Okay.
Literally, we get it, we don't want the corrupt people to win, they're the bad guys, but is this literally the hill you want to die on?
Yeah, I could see him saying, can I leave? Can I go to the game? I need to be there to support my team. Whatever,
yeah, and
right?
then suddenly he gets this strength, but he can barely walk when he shows up to the game.
It's bad. So that, and then things get more complicated with the love triangle, right? Because you've got girlfriend who knows about the payout, Floozy number 2 knows about the payout, and is begging him, please just quit. I don't want you to die. I do want you to get rich, and I want us to be happy together.
Yeah.
And then you've got baby mama, who comes, doesn't know about the money.
Doesn't know about how serious the injury is either. He never tells her, how...
incorrect. And doesn't know anything, but is still telling him, hey, take it easy, recover.
Yeah.
Right? So, when you put all of this into a blender and turn it on, that's essentially what peak fiction is, right? Is incredibly complex situations, seeing how people deal with them, and then being able to dissect it and apply it to reality. So, how do we feel about the situation?
I feel like they don't give us enough reasons for him to play, other than he wants to, and he doesn't want them to. The bad guys be bad guys. He doesn't want them to win.
Okay, so
but that's the stakes. It's
again, thematically, the sanctity of baseball is the holy grail of the movie. It's very Arthurian, right? The team is called the Knights. He's basically King Arthur. He shows up. He leads the Knights to victory, right? The pennant in the purity of baseball, these are the holy grail. That's something that they're fighting to achieve throughout the entire movie. So that being said, thematically, this was always going to be his duty, right? In reality, we can acknowledge baseball is not worth dying.
Yeah.
Okay. We agree on this point. Sorry, Pastor. Baseball is not worth dying. But in terms of if it was the actual Holy Grail, that raises an interesting question. If somebody was actually trying to taint the Holy Grail and you had to die to protect it, would that be a thing?
Well, but that's not what's happening.
I understand that that's not what's happening, but that's why we're dissecting it.
Yeah,
right?
I don't.
So, the male answer, in my humble opinion, being a guy, I feel qualified to give my opinion on this. The guy answer is yes. Like, it is your duty to protect the sanctity of that which is holy, especially to you. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, the cup that Jesus drank out of, in this case being the Holy Grail, symbolically is just whatever your highest ideal is, right? And in this case, would be my faith, right? Would I let somebody taint my faith just to preserve my life? Absolutely not.
Right.
And if that's what you take away from this, I think that's great, but obviously the situation is super complex, and baseball is not what we're dying for.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But yeah, if you look at it through that, because for his character, like, baseball is his faith. Like, that's the one constant thing in his life. Since, like, he was literally born, like, that's the one thing he's sure of is baseball. So if it's like that with him and his mindset of, like, it'd be worse than death for him to not be able to, then yeah, I can understand why he would choose that, and I guess I'd be more on his side if it was
clearer or better written, it would be easier to be on his side. But here, I think we're in agreement where it's like, you don't take the money, you do go and support your team, you want them to win to protect the sanctity of the game, but if at all possible, you do not die for it.
Yeah, and that's good thinking, but bad movie ending.
He intentionally hides what will happen to him.
Yeah.
He intentionally hides what will happen to him, and he plays, and he literally sheds blood, and they win the game, and there's a happy ending, but the entire ending sequence is one of those things that struck me as, like, the only reason that this is happening is to smash you over the head with movie language that says this is the good guy triumphing over evil, right? Where he confronts all three of the bad guys in the judge's office. He says, take your money, I don't need none of ya. He almost gets shot by Floozy number 2.
Yeah.
Thus completing her arc of transformation into Floozy number 1. I guess almost completing, because she didn't shoot him and she didn't kill herself.
Yeah, good.
I don't think. We don't know what happened after the credits rolled. But, then he plays the game, and you actually do, at the end here, get a message that I think is pretty solid, pretty biblical, and I really, really like it. Like, the final message of the ending. How we get there, as far as I'm concerned, is complete nonsense. But Roy swings, strike 1, maybe strike 2, and then he hits, like, foul ball, and then foul ball number 2, and foul ball number 2 breaks his Wonder Boy bat.
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So symbolically, essentially the thing that he's kept with him that is tied to his success, that everybody views as like, oh, he's got this special bat that's called Wonder Boy, and he carved into it, and and it's the last piece of his father that he's carrying with him. That breaks, and he looks at it, and to me, at the very least, what this says is, it's time for me to be the man. I am the father now. I can't rely on my father anymore. Right? He gets a note from Iris while he's in the dugout. We forgot to mention this, sorry. He gets a note from Iris while he's in the dugout.
It's like, your son's
presumably says, my son is your son, and he is watching you. Yeah. Make him proud,
Yeah.
Like, he gets that, he goes up to that, he does this, his bat breaks, and he looks at it, and he looks devastated for all of a second. And that hit me really hard, where it was like, okay, I'm the man now.
Yeah.
I can't be relying on my dad to solve my problems, and he's dead. I need to bury him, and I need to now, like, with reverence, right? Because he doesn't just kick him to the side or whatever. He picks up the pieces, he hands them to the Bat Boy, and he goes, "Pick me out a winner."
Yeah, and we haven't really covered this yet, but he is shown to like have a really good relationship with like a lot of the kids that show up to the games, and this Bat Boy specifically, he helped him make his special bat too, so he's bonding with the community. And
again, positive message, but pretty run of the mill, I'd say, because I mean, people should be nice to kids, right?
Yeah.
That's like the most lukewarm opinion ever. And the
nice
fact that he's good with kids is nice to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he helps the kid make the special bat. So when Wonder Boy breaks and he gives the pieces to the kid and he says, "Pick me out a winner," the kid goes and grabs his special bat.
Yeah, that he
hands it to Roy, and it's a very, like, again, strikes me as a very obvious passing of the torch, right? Where the kid goes, "Anoint me, O King Arthur, to be the next knight," essentially. So Arthur takes the new Excalibur, shall we say, right? The new bat, hits a home run with it, and that is essentially his bow out, his farewell to the game of baseball, is passing it on to the next generation of people.
Yeah. He's able to just...
Completely and utterly ridiculously obvious cinema language again. The ball goes up, breaks one of the stadium lights, the sparks shower right in front of the judge's office in the box where all three of them are looking out through the blinds, and the light illuminates the darkness and falls on all the players, and they're all super happy and celebrating because they won the pennant. Yay! The good guys win. The purity of the Holy Grail is, secured, and the torch has been passed to the next generation, and King Arthur has lived to go and be happily ever after and pass on his love of the game of baseball to his son and finally do the right thing.
Yeah, which is like
raise his child
pretty quickly. It just like cuts to boom, they're at the farm, boom, and credits. There's like one scene of them tossing the ball around, which is like...
Honestly, I'd say that movie-wise, that is efficiency rather than abrupt, right? Because you get the ending of the game, you know that essentially his story is over, but they give you the final, like, oh, he's married to them now, they're on the farm, that was always home for them, and he's playing catch with his son, and everybody's happy. So I didn't mind it. Did you mind the hard cut?
I did mind the hard cut because it's like, yeah, I guess like we're all building up to this big game, but really, scene one, we're building up to, we start at the farm, end at the farm. It'd be nice for him to meet his son and like to know like that he's. I guess we don't need it. We don't we know we already knew this was gonna happen, but it would have been nice to see. That's all. Because I'm used to more movies.
You'd like a little more, if we say we'll give you an extra 2 minutes of movie, you think that an establishing montage or a couple of conversations or something.
It doesn't have to be it could just be literally a conversation between him and his son, or him and his woman.
So that the final shot, you would just want there to be dialogue.
Yeah, just linger there a little bit longer because like. Him and her, they're like the heart of the movie. Them two, their relationship, I feel. That's where...
I mean, let's be real here. The heart of the movie is Roy in baseball. And he happens to occasionally cheat on baseball with various women, one of whom is Iris.
That's true. Yeah. But I guess I just would have liked it to linger a little bit longer, and that we could know, like, what... That he's over it. I guess we know. We don't need it,
fair
but it would have been nice.
I didn't mind it. You did. Yeah. But... that was our pretty darn thorough breakdown of The Natural. Pastor, I hope you don't hate me too much by the time we get you the final cut of this. But I guess we'll find out. For now, though, what was supposed to be next on the agenda? Totally forgot. We're referencing notes. There'll be a hard cut here in a second.
Do you have any closing thoughts overall?
Closing thoughts on The Natural. So, again, I think it's an okay movie. We discussed a lot of the good, we discussed a lot of the bad. you now know pretty much my complete thoughts, and hopefully, yeah, your complete thoughts.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
so-
it has some good messages. Hard work, and don't be self-idolizing.
Don't be self-idolizing. I'd say that there's a pretty solid message here as well that is good of, protecting the sanctity of that which you love.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
but the most
yeah.
important thing being know how to choose your women. I guess don't.
Yes. Yeah, Roy's got problems. Homie needs to bump his IQ up a couple of points, and his insight score needs to be higher, for sure. She doesn't play D&D, but some of you will get that reference. Okay. That being said, pretty solid movie. I'd say it's worth a watch
Yes.
at the very least, even though I think it's completely average. You can watch it. Give us your thoughts. Feel free to tell Pastor what you think of his favorite movie. We did at length. But yeah, we hope to see you again for future episodes of the podcast. We would love to get everybody else's favorite movies. Right now, we've got a grand total of 8 or 9 or something on
Yeah.
the list. Somewhere, I'm sure. She keeps track of everything. She's good at that. But yeah, for now, outro, roll credits, exit, stage left.